Welcome to the Rural Recharge, a podcast of the Florida Farm Bureau Federation. Rural Recharge is a guided conversation that allows you to cut through the noise and multitude of information out there. You should be able to trust your sources, which is why we're a platform that comes straight from the source, the farmers and ranchers growing what we eat, wear, and use every day. Our guests today are Wade and Karen Purvis, vegetable growers from South Florida and Florida Farm Bureau Farmers of the Year. Mr. and Mrs. Purvis have been strong leaders in the industry and in their community. And as Farmer of the Year, Mr. Purvis will advance to the Sun Belt Ag Expo Southeastern Farmer of the Year in Moultrie, Georgia this October. There he will compete with 9 other states for the prestigious title. Mr. Purvis was involved with production agriculture from a young age, and after completing his college education, he worked in the citrus industry until creating his own farm in 2014, which has successfully led to the Farmers Alliance Marketing Company. And I welcome today Mr. and Mrs. Wade Purvis. Thank y'all for joining us today. Mr. Purvis?
Well, thank you, and it's a pleasure to be here, and thanks for having me. But like you mentioned there, we're originally from up in the center part of the state, around Plant City. When I graduated from college, it was in a period of time when the inclement weather with freezes and different things was pushing a lot of the industries that I was involved with south. So I ended up in Immockolee, and was a blessing in disguise to be here. I guess a lot of the things that could be said about my tenure down here has been in the right place at the right time, and I've had some great people that have been willing to give me a chance. And I'm one of those people that from a very, very early age really zeroed in on what I wanted to do, and not even really realizing what it was. Probably followed my granddad around, then my dad and uncle, and then all the way through a series of influential people, including ag teachers in high school that were very influential, all the way through college, and then just every job that I've ever had had something to do with agriculture. But like was mentioned, I came down here basically developing and creating citrus groves out of raw land. Citrus industry was basically devastated within a decade in the northern part of the state, and this was the wild, wild west, the frontier, and put in thousands of acres of citrus down here in a real short period of time. And through that process, working with a couple of companies down here, kind of migrated over into a land management role and then into a farming role, developed farmland and managed farms for several companies down here, very good companies, and then rolled out and had the opportunity to take advantage of a few things, and created my own farm. Started in 2014, and that's what takes us to today. And that's been a constant evolution, and we've got dreams yet to conquer, but we're working on them. And if you'd had asked if this conversation would have been done 5-6 years ago, it would be sounding different, because your head's got to be on the swivel. Things change. You think the worst thing in the world's happening to you, and as you're going through it, it's awful. And 5 years down the road, you're just thanking God that you got that to happen to you, because it puts you in a position that you're in today. So it's funny how things work, but that's the long and the short of where we are.
I appreciate that, and especially in vegetable production, it can change very quickly, both ways, either way. It can go, markets can change, disease, weather, pests, anything can change it. And like I was told many years ago, especially as farmer to farmer, an older farmer told me, he said, Jeb, it's always got to be bad to be good. Well, I appreciate that, Mr. Purvis. Mrs. Purvis, and thank you for joining us today. Tell us a little bit about your background as well.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Thank you guys for coming and giving us this opportunity. As Wade said, we both grew up in the Plant City area, Hillsborough County, central part of the state of Florida. And we certainly knew what farming was all about. You know, Plant City is a ag town, always has been. It's very different today, as many places are. But growing up, you know, the farms were very small, and my grandfather was a very small strawberry farmer, so I knew farming from that aspect, and had many friends and family members, other families that were friends, like family, I guess I should say, that all had small farms. So when we came to this area and the farms that, you know, transpired into these thousands of acres, that's something that I did not know anything about, nor what farm life would be, you know, with him tending to those thousands of acres. So it was a transition for me, but a good one. We're fortunate today that we have all of our family, you know, here. Our son is involved day to day on the farm with Wade. His name is Kyle, and after he graduated, we tried to push him out to go do other things, but he had the heart, you know, to come back and be on the farm. He spent some time at the packing house as well, and has now gone to the farm, which is where his heart is. So we're grateful that he's here with us and wants to do that and help out, you know, in any capacity. Our daughter also has been on the farm as well, you know, working in different aspects of the business, did some marketing for a while, and now has gone on to do something else that's her passion, but she also helps out on the farm anytime we need her to. And our daughter-in-law, our new daughter-in-law, that our son got married in July, so we have a brand new daughter-in-law, and she jumps in there anytime, you know, we need her to. You might see her on the packing line or in the field helping Kyle, so she just jumps right in there, and we're so grateful for that. And then our son-in-law is in the industry as well. He works for Wade's brother, in fact, and so he certainly knows the business and helps us out, you know, as needed too. So we're just grateful that they want to be, you know, involved in the business, and that we have them, you know, close by, and we don't take that lightly. We know we're very fortunate to be able to have, you know, our whole family close by.
Well, thank you, and thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to this discussion. We have a listening audience that's pretty diverse, all over geographically, even around the world. We've got people that are listening today. Tell us where Immockolee, Florida is, so folks can have a better understanding where it is located.
Immockolee is in an area that is inland from Naples by about 25 miles. It's southwest of Lake Okeechobee by about 25 miles, and it's nestled in a microclimate. Some of the highest peaks or highest areas in Collier County are right here around Immockolee, and it's a little bit south of where the transition happens. You know, we're 25 miles south of the Caloosahatchee River, and from that Caloosahatchee River to the saltwater, which are to the southwest portion of the state, the elevation, it falls about 2 inches a mile. Oh, wow. So it's relatively flat. But you got the coast, you got cypress strands, the upper ends of the Everglades, and it's a microclimate that basically is on a freeze-type situation. It's a degree or two warmer than for just an hour or two than some of the surrounding places, which is very, very important in whether you have a crop that after a freeze event happens. And that's how Immockolee got here, basically, is that microclimate that it exists here.
Very interesting. So it's a unique place.
Very unique
place for growing vegetables, especially.
Yep.
What you're doing, and a lot of folks may not understand, but the uniqueness is that you actually can water a crop, irrigate a crop from bottom up. And that is very, very different than other places, which they always have to go from top down. So it makes it very, very good for vegetable production, control of fertilization, because you can move that nutrient back up into the root zone as well. Very, very true. And,
you know, and with that comes a lot of quirks that things you need to know when you farm on this type of ground. And when you, in other words, imagine this, you want to place fertilizer below your root ball, because when you bring the water up, that fertilizer, even though it's nutrients and everything the plant wants, it's caustic to a plant in higher concentrations because it's it's a salty product. And so those are the unique things to farming in Immockolee that, I go up 150 miles. I go up to the center part of the state. I go up to South Georgia, and I'm a fish out of water there too. It's different here than anywhere else I've been.
It's always unique, and I love talking farming, but I love it because it's so neat, different between farmers, but also for our consumers. They don't realize sometimes the differences that we have in regional production and the risks as well as the benefits to each of these different unique spots and what we can and what we can't grow. Well, let's move it, just transition a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your year as the Florida Farm Bureau Farmer of the Year. What has the experience been like, and what is the best or most unique experience that you have had?
Well, first off, it goes without saying, I'm honored to have received this award, and especially in the company that I keep. But it's been a very eye-opening and an enjoyable stint so far. And what I really see is what is revealed to me is the importance of being involved. We'd all like to just bounce around our truck and just do our thing on the farm, but the world is a big place. One of the things that I have, and it's been encouraging, is I've had, they've been receptive. These guys, they literally want to hear from us. And that's very encouraging to me. And a lot of the things that are happening that we feel that are bad sometimes turn out to be, it's a good thing we did it. And so that's probably one of the biggest things that I've just experienced.
I just want to testify to the very fact that we were together and sitting in front of our Commissioner of Agriculture, and your testimony, personal testimony on a special assessment, tax assessment, ended up being brought to fruition before him and ended up going to a tax package and benefits all of our producers now. So just that one little bit of hey, this is the way that directly affects me, and the cost it's going to bring upon me, the burden it's going to be to me in my operation, led to legislative benefit to a whole state producers. That's for sure. And
that was profound to me too. But and there's something about what cause and effect is, and talk about it. But when you really understand what it actually does to somebody like me or somebody, it changes everything. And when you have a receptive audience, like I feel we have, I haven't run across anybody that kicked me out of their office. So it's been a good thing.
Well, I'd just say thank you for doing it. Thank you for your willingness to participate and to go to some of those offices and speak, because it's helped a lot of us in the industry, and appreciate you taking time. But not only you, your wife also, and she's here with us today. Miss Karen's been everywhere I've been. She's been right by your side, whether it's been in Tallahassee, Washington, D.C., Tampa, all across this state and country. She's been there, and I guess it's not only the Florida Farmer of the Year, it's actually the Florida Farm Bureau Farmers of the Year, because it's a couple that's involved here. And the Purvises have been very engaged, and I'd like to just hear from you today, Miss Karen, representing Florida at the Sun Belt Ag Expo Florida Farm Bureau contest. What has it been like for you in your experience?
Well, thank you for the opportunity to be here. We appreciate you guys being down here to talk to us. We have just been, it's been an honor. It's been a blessing to be a part of this. Like Wade said, the company that we've kept over this past year has been amazing. What my experience with Farm Bureau before, the past year had been is I basically knew they sold insurance. So it has been definitely eye-opening for me, for us, to know what an amazing organization that Farm Bureau is, the support system that's built within this organization that I had no idea, that they had so many departments and had such of a support to those of us who are in the industry. So that's been huge, for us. And just being able to attend some of the events, like you mentioned, we were involved at the State Fair in Tampa earlier this year. We were able to go to Tallahassee and then moved on to Washington, D.C., and Wade already shared, some of our experience there. It was just amazing to see behind the scenes of what goes on, and to be able to, hopefully make a difference by, some of our personal stories. So it's been a blessing to be involved. We certainly are honored to be in this group. And like you said, it's not just one person. We're a farm family, and we're blessed that our family is involved and that we have that support system.
Let me ask you this. This is a personal question, though. Did you know what you were getting into when you married a farmer?
I did not. I really had no idea. And my background was education. My dad was an administrator in Hillsborough County. My mom was in the school system. Oh, wow. So, we had a 9-to-5 schedule pretty much. But when I married Wade and he got more involved in the farm, there were no cell phones at the time.
That's right.
So he may be home for dinner, he may not be. I may think he came home at night. I some nights I wasn't sure. We were kind of, passing in the dark, so to speak. But especially after I retired this year and, had a firsthand experience with what all he does and what all the people in this industry does, it's definitely opened my eyes, and I have a huge respect, always had a respect, for the industry, but seeing it the way I've seen it, over the past few years has really opened my eyes to just the compassion and the dedication. And I think one word that describes, many people in this industry, but Wade in particular, is just perseverance.
Sure.
Because, he has had a lot of obstacles along the way, whether that be hurricanes or other weather events, just the industry in itself, and farmers just keep going, they just keep waking up every day and going right back at it. I think they're the ultimate optimistic, people that just keep going.
But it's not just the farmer. It's the farmer's wife that has to persevere as well. And there's some resilience and some encouragement that has to come along with that. And also, I just think it's so neat especially to see a couple when you all are in Tampa or in Tallahassee or in Washington, D.C., to see you side by side representing not only your interest in your farm itself, but also the interest of this state. So I extend a tremendous amount of gratitude to you as well. And thank you for being willing to go through this venture, because it is not easy. It is, when we our wives go through a lot of tumult and trial and tribulation and don't even understand exactly what that is. So I have a lot of respect for our farm wives as well. And thank you. Thank you for being here today. And thank you for sticking by.
It's not for the weak of heart, is it?
No, it's always got to be bad to be good.
That's right.
Yeah, remember that.
That'll be our new line.
That'll carry over to marriage too.
Well, not only within the agricultural community, but I imagine that this platform has provided opportunities for those outside of agriculture, like this audience. This audience that we're dealing with on a podcast is going to be outside of agriculture a little bit as well. And you've had opportunities for an off-farm audience. What's been the outcome of it? What's been the experience that you've had with some of those?
There's a couple of things that's been really interesting. And, primarily the place to get food is going to the grocery store, and the consumer, you like to think, makes the choices. And what has been interesting, and it really hasn't been anything to do with anything that I've done, but it's been kind of a trend of the industry, is the for the most part in the past few decades, there's been people other than the consumer that's been making the choices. That's right. And I think, ironically, it's become evident to chain stores are doing a really good job of it now. These retail outlets are basically understanding what the consumer really wants. Take for instance the popularity of an organic product. And I interpret that, and I think very easily anybody could interpret it. That's basically they want to save food supply. That's perceived to be safe, and we listen to that as far as producers. The chain stores listen to that, and basically what we have done is our cultural practices and everything tailor to things that adopt a lot of things that organic product does. But we have food safety in place. We have a lot of things in place that ensure a safe product. Absolutely. People like to think that their product is coming from a sustainable source that's local. They buy tomato. They really don't want it to be per se from Mexico or some other place. It's not. They want it good, and if they can get it good and it be local, I think that's what they want, and that's becoming evident, and that's being tailored to by the industry as in their distribution process, and that's one of the biggest things I think has changed in the last few years is that marketing trend.
Sure, absolutely.
And I think just the ag education side as well. People, they don't know, so therefore they don't always understand. And I think that that's one thing that we've been able to share with people who are not, in the industry through this Farmer of the Year. And even, back to COVID, we were able to, have some things that we normally wouldn't have had. We had some box sales right there at the packing house and things like that. And through that process, we were able to share with people about, what we do and why we do what we do. So, that was like you said, there's got to be something bad to bring something good. And that was an opportunity that we had to be able to share that education side, to people who were not involved. So that's been good as well.
Sounds like the educator coming out now.
It does.
You're right. I can't put it on the back burner all the time.
Yeah.
Well, and it's neat, and that's the unique side of it, having a couple that have a producer, and oftentimes that's the area that a lot of farmers would resist, is actually being engaged in educating the public or being involved and taking outside of our bubble, our little comfort zone of being the farm, and extending to that off-farm audience. And that's something that maybe did the Florida Farmer of the Year take you outside of that bubble and enforce that? And then is that something that helped too, or was it COVID before definitely opened that door, but did this particular opportunity maybe even take you a little bit, Mr. Purvis, out of that comfort zone?
It certainly did. It facilitated a forum or a platform, whereas I always knew that I should be involved in some of these things outside the windows of my truck, but I resisted it. I didn't know nothing about it. I really didn't have a forum. I'd go sit at FFVA whatever meetings and be a part, see things happening, but really and truly it inspired me and facilitated me to get more involved and more understanding of the political aspects that are extremely important.
Yes.
And because really and truly it's very, very easy to do the math. We're outnumbered, and there's a lot of interest out there that don't understand the balance and would love to see houses on everything down here.
That's right.
And when that happens, it's gone. There's no going back.
Okay, with that being said, that might enter into my next question then, because it is, as your year as a Florida Farm Bureau Farmer of the Year is coming to a close, what's the message or legacy you want to leave behind?
The most important thing, I think, is basically that not only a service, but we provide we experience ways of life. We facilitate or enable other people to have ways of life that really enhance the cross-section of society here in the United States. And yes, it could be duplicated across borders and overseas, but the viability and the existence of strong farm and food supplies coming from internal domestic products is very, very important, and it's directly correlated with the strength of the country. And it's not very few people cannot think a few years back during the COVID and the interruptions in what is a very delicate chain process of getting things to where they want. And when you start throwing in a perishable product, you do not want the grocery store shelves to be empty for 2 or 3 days. Because if things stop, they go empty. They just don't appear overnight. It takes that wheel's got to get started rolling again and the momentum's got to get going, it's very important to understand that this has got to be a viable thing. I've actually used the terminology that a strong food supply, domestic food supply, is a national security issue. I can't think of a better way for a country to get the upper hand on us is to control our food supply. And that you don't want to have happen.
I think that's a very well said and very well said message, and especially one that you have that platform to do now, that national security is tied to food security. Absolutely. Well, we wish you the very, very best in regard to it, and wish you success. And boy, I hope the legacy is that Wade Purvis and Karen Purvis end up being the Florida, not only Florida Farm Bureau Farmers of the Year, but also the Sun Belt Expo Southeastern Farmers of the Year. That'd be great. So that'd be a real legacy there. That's for sure. Tough competition, but I tell you what, I know y'all are going to be very competitive in it. That's no doubt.
Thank you.
But talking about that, though, tell us a little bit about the judging process that you've experienced for Sunbelt Ag Expo Farmer of the Year contest, and what are some things that you focused on during your judges' visits to the farm?
We met here, judges talked, and a great group of guys. It was just like a dinner on the grounds, just conversations about things that all led to the common point. But and we're here in the middle of August, so I have very little crops in the ground. We're tilling land, getting land ready, working on equipment, getting things ready to go. But still, we were able to take a look around and talk about things. And these guys were knowledgeable enough; they could see what was going to happen, even though it wasn't actually there. They understood the process, and we had a really good time riding around and looking and just talking about topics of all kinds.
Farmers like to talk farming, don't they?
They like to talk.
Okay.
It was just evident too, as we've experienced throughout this year, the people that we've met, it's somebody said one time that the agricultural industry, it's a big industry, but it's a small community.
That's right.
And that was evident when we were talking to the guys, and just great guys. And that's what we've experienced, just being able to be out there and do some of the, events that we've been a part of. It's really been a blessing, and just so neat to meet people like that. And everybody wants the same goal. They want this industry to succeed and to succeed well.
Yeah. That's right.
And help each other along the way, have that support system for one another.
Yeah. And yet, it's so big. It's like you mentioned earlier, it's a big industry with a small community. And it's so diverse and yet so unique. But it has commonality, even whether you're a vegetable grower to other things that other producers may have. It's still common. We use tractors, we use equipment, we're engaged in certain things. But y'all have some uniqueness, and your business is unique. Sure. And your farm and Partnership Farmers Alliance focuses on a lot from fresh from Florida and locally grown. Tell us a little bit about the uniqueness of that, the focus, and what was the catalyst for it.
The Farmers Alliance basically was a group of farmers that we got together here. Great guys. We talk about our problems, and they're the same problems, and it especially when it relates to marketing.
Sure.
And one of the guys in particular has just a dynamic personality, and the guys that are buying for these grocery store chains and all, they love to talk to the farmer. Sure. if they could get a chance, and what we did was kind of change the system, whereas the farmers typically sell to wholesale. If there's a layer of marketing bureaucracy between us and the chain stores, and it was necessary. Over the years, chain stores have consolidated their buying practices, and they couldn't call 35 farms to get a load of product, so they relied on people that filled the need of consolidating all these different products together, and they had one person to call instead of 35. So, you're naive if you don't recognize that. Sure. So we recognize that, and we put together our best effort to try to get as much of that direct business as we could. We have made a lot of strides in it. Probably the biggest thing we've done is learn a lot. Yeah, and sure. A lot of these lessons are tough, and they're expensive, and unintended consequences here and there. You name it, we've done it. But there is a lot of good that's come of it, and I can attest that I'm confident that some of the people that we work with on the other end will reflect back and would say the same thing. They see a lot of good coming out of this, because they're more assured of. They're trying to make supplies happen on the shelves, and they're getting the stories from a guy that don't farm. Well, it rained, and then the sun, it's too hot here, it's cold, all in the same sentence. Well, if they're talking right to the horse's mouth, they got a better feel of knowing what's really going on, and they can make adjustments that everybody benefits from. And so I would call it a success.
Well, that's awesome. That's really neat. Talking about that, your farm here in Immockolee, Florida, what does the future look like? What do you think the future will be here on your farm in Immockolee, Florida?
The future at Immockolee is kind of like Immockolee's been since the 30s. It's an ever-changing face here. Every couple of decades, something happens to change it, and what's happening right now is, to a large extent, is urban sprawl. Sure. There's a lot of development happening coming out this far east. When I say east of Naples, out this way, and what's going to happen is, instead of I believe is instead of having a season that our season is 28 to 30 weeks, typically planting season down here, and I think we'll probably see that. It might stay 28 weeks, but you'll see kind of a lens where it'll be thin on the front end and fat in the middle, where this is the only place you can grow during a certain few weeks. And then if you've got options to farm in other areas, a few 100 miles up the road, or you'll be there instead of Immockolee, because the real estate is going to be so valuable. It's going to push us out, I believe. So I believe you'll have people have the farms come to Immockolee during the wintertime, right during the hardest, shortest days, and where we got probability of freeze. But on the fringes, we'll probably integrate some places outside of Immockolee. But I do feel that the development is going to keep on happening down here, at least for the foreseeable future anyway.
And that's not just unique to Immockolee, Florida. It seems to be a nationwide issue. I read a statistic by USDA's National Ag Statistics Service the other day that cropland, farmland nationwide went up 8.1% in value. So we've seen some radical increase in real estate values, and most of that is being pushed by development and the desire for people to want to move to the Sunshine State. But it seems like it's just a lot of what's happened in COVID. A lot of folks have learned that they like this remote working, and they're pushing out into the countryside and taking up and gobbling up farmland, and that's happening. It's amazing to me that it's happening in Immockolee. It's just a stunning thing.
Yeah, when I came down here, it was the Wild Wild West. Never would have dreamed I'd be seeing some of the things. But all that being said, is something bad's got to happen for something good. The deal is on getting the same amount of volume of product on fewer acres. That's right. Instead of having to grow 100 acres to get X amount of volume, if we are, through technology, through any means that we can muster up, we get it off 60 acres.
That's right.
And that, if you look at it, that's how we have survived. It wasn't just a few years ago when I first came down here. It was a acre of pepper was roughly $3,000 an acre. But our yield was 700.
That's right. And
now it's over 10,000, but our yield is pushing 2,000. And that's the only way that we've been able to survive with that. So it's necessity is part of the program.
Got to be bad to be good.
Got to be bad to be good.
Florida Farm Bureau's theme for 2023 is growing forward. In your day-to-day role, how are you growing Florida agricultural forward? And I'll ask that to Mr. Purvis, and I'll ask that to Ms. Karen.
Growing Florida agriculture forward is basically, I concentrate on things like the Fresh from Florida program, just being involved in the Florida Farm Bureau, making people aware of domestic Florida product. Just so happens we directly compete with some product that comes in from other places during the winter time. So it's a huge emphasis on us. And in addition to that, I think you're very, very naive not to think that it's very important to take care of the environment and to make sure that we can coexist with what's inevitable to happen. I mean, this development's going to happen. You got to be here. Sure. You got to work together on it. You can fight it, or you can make things work. And being proactive and being a part of the development or part of the growth is having a say in it is very important.
Very good. Ms. Karen, how would you grow Florida agriculture forward?
To me, growing forward through Florida agriculture, I think you recognize that there's got to be change. As you know, it's an ever-changing industry, and you have to be ready for that change, whether that's, adding technology to your program or just changing up the way you do things or adding crops, whatever the case may be. And I think one thing that Wade and I have a vision for, and it's more of a family vision, our girls, my daughter, my daughter-in-law, my son, and my son-in-law, we all have a vision to add some agritourism, to our business, and whether that's going to what it's going to look like, we're not exactly sure, but we definitely know we want to try doing something like a farmer's market. We've got a new piece of ground that Wade will be working on, and that would lend itself to doing exactly that. And like I said, the girls are fired up and they're ready to go with that. And I think that's just, recognizing the need is there. We've got these developments, and like you said, something bad leads to something good, but we've got this unique opportunity to be able to cater, to some of these developments that want to buy local and they want fresh, produce. They want to know where it's coming from, and we learned that, during COVID. They want to be our support. They want to buy from us before they just go grab something, from the local chain grocery store that they may or may not know where that, that product came from. So I think that's a unique opportunity in the growing forward theme that we can certainly expand and try to incorporate into our business. We're excited about that opportunity to be able to do that.
Well, that's unique, and that's definitely outside the box. That's pressing things a whole lot different direction than just vegetable production and being a farmer. That's for sure. That's a vertical integration. What last I've looked at, and definitely taking it direct to the consumer is a very exciting thing. Yeah. I want to say thank you. Thank you for your time today, and thank you for taking time to speak to this audience in this podcast. But thank you for your representation of the Florida ag industry, and all of us wish you the very, very best come October. And it sounds like an exciting time to be able to be. I'd like to hear that Florida is named to be the Southeastern Farmer of the Year. That'd be an exciting thing. Is there anything that you'd like to just finish up with? Anything you'd like to add today?
I just want to say that I appreciate the opportunity. It's been a great year, and look forward to the expo and all that tells, and I'm sure out of that crowd there will be a good one, and wish everybody the best.
Very good.
Sure. And the same for me, and just the experience that we've had has been just an amazing one. We've loved all the events and being able to share this time with the folks that we have come in contact with. It's a great organization, and it's been great to learn more about it and be able to represent it. So we've been blessed by this experience for sure.
I've been blessed that you actually recognize that Florida Farm Bureau is not just insurance.
Exactly,
that's an exciting thing.
Exactly.
Well, we do wish you all the very best, and anything we can do to help and assist, we're here to help. And thank you. I think our audience has learned a lot today about at least farming in Southwest Florida and in Immockolee. And we sign out and thank y'all for your attention to the Rural Recharge podcast. We'll see you later.